Hello. Sorry that I cut that video off because I had realized that I had written something about manic episode when I had my manic episodes. I used to have them all the time. Okay. And I'm sorry if there's not enough light in here. I'm just way too lazy to get up. Okay. But I'm going to read to you what I had written. This was I don't have the date. I thought I would have the date. I want to say this was back in 2018. Okay, I'm going to just put that out there. This is what I wrote. Manic phase is when I am most inspired, drive to learn new things, vocabulary, inspired by art and music, desire to paint, desire to write, desire to tell someone you love them and how much you mean to them. Love listening to music, especially when high. My body is exhausted. My mind is racing. I might crash out of nowhere and not wake up for a while. But for now, while my eyes are open, my mind going 100 miles per hour, going to explode any minute now, it's addicting. This positive sense of fulfillment and drive, please don't end. Going back to feeling hopeless and unimportant creates a prison in mind and it's hard to get out. Yes, I love manic phase. Or is it because meditation saved my corrupted mind? Maybe. I don't know. Mind of a bipolar? Question mark. How funny is it that I had mentioned how much of this world corrupted my mind in so many different fucking ways? Okay. And it took me to reading this to you guys, and it took me to finding this. And somehow it took me back to this specific writing. Okay. I was diagnosed, backstory, let me tell you guys. I was diagnosed with bipolar 2. And I had really bad anxiety, 222 on the timestamp. Anxiety took over my whole body, my mind, how I was behaving, and my hands were not this still. Let me tell you. My hands were shaky, and a lot shaky. Yes, meditation saved my life. Yes, I went straight back to holistic healing. I went from taking so many different prescriptions. I ended up in a psych ward. Okay. And while I was in there, I was writing. And I kept writing. And I kept all those notes. And I have to go back and look for the notes. Because whatever I was that I was experiencing in the physical, I knew in my mind, I am not supposed to be here. Does that make sense? When I was put in the psych ward and I was taking all kinds of prescriptions, I knew then that I did not belong there. So I would write about it. 333 when I said that. I would write about it. Whatever it was that was happening to me in the physical, I knew there was injustice in that. This wasn't supposed to happen, right? In my mind, consciously, I was thinking, I know exactly where I am with my mind, but in the physical, I do not belong here. In the physical, everybody thought, in their point of view, right? They looked at me as a crazy one. She is too much. Okay. These were the things that people were telling me. You're too much. You do this too much. You say this too much at this time. This is not. But in my mind, from my point of view, I was in pain body. I was emotional. And I had moments of vulnerability. 444 when I said that. I went through a breakthrough. So whatever it is that they call manic, when you're having a manic episode, whatever they want to label it, manic episode, right? I was going through an emotional breakdown. I went through a lot in my childhood when it came to neglect and abandonment. I went through a lot when it came through daddy issues and mommy issues. My parents were not present in my life. My parents were not present when I was a child. They were not present. I was raised by my grandparents. But at the time, so much was going on in my mind, and I was in pain body. But how much prescriptions I was prescribed and diagnosed with bipolar 2 and going through anxiety, 555 on the timestamp, and was evaluated in my behaviors and my thoughts, what kind of thoughts I was having, what kind of behaviors I was having. I was just around a bunch of motherfucking doctors being prescribed so many things. But in my mind, at the time, I'm looking back on this, at the time, I was just a sad person. I don't even want to put the gender on that. Let's not put the gender on that, okay? We're just going to say I am an individual who was having an experience with my body at the time. And in my mind, I kept thinking to myself, I was just sad. I was just having an emotional breakdown. I am exhausted. Right? But to them, to other people, I'm crazy, she's crazy, she needs prescriptions. Why do we look to prescriptions right away? I'm sorry that had to come out the way it did, but it did for some reason, for a reason. Why do we have to look to prescriptions so much? Why can't we just talk? You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't we just sit and talk about it? No, we're going to put a prescription on it. In my mind at the time, I'm thinking, I don't need prescriptions. I just need love. Why is it so hard for Kim to have love in her life? And then this is where I go in and I make that choice and I go, fuck the prescriptions. I'm going to do this another way. I'm going to do this the natural way. We're going to get rid of all the prescriptions and we're going to do this the natural way. We're going to heal, and we're going to heal head on. And it's going to be the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's going to be the most rewarding thing you'll ever do for yourself, Kimberly. I had conversations, I had little talks to myself. I would really get into this, okay, reflecting in myself, reflecting about getting root to the motherfucking problem. Virgos love to get to the root of the motherfucking problem and resolving them. You know how Virgos are. I'm going to get to the root of my motherfucking problem. I don't need no doctor to tell me otherwise. I'm going to do this the natural way, and I'm going to heal the natural way. I did not know what's to come. I did not know what to expect. I went into it thinking I'm going to do this head on and I don't need anybody's help. Biggest ego, right? I don't need anybody to help me. I'm going to do this on my own. So I went and did it on my own. And it was the hardest motherfucking thing I've ever had to do for myself. I lost so many people. Perhaps that was a good thing. I have lost and left so many jobs. Perhaps that was also a good thing, but also was really difficult for Kimberly financially. But she had to do what she had to do, okay, to save herself, because nobody else is going to save Kimberly. Okay, thank you. I have lost friendships, relationships that probably was supposed to end anyway because you can't really miss anything that you never had. I've lost family members, but perhaps maybe they were supposed to just leave you because they weren't actually supposed to be in your life. Okay, anyway, my life changed from then on. When I said I'm going to choose to heal, when I said to myself, I'm going to choose to heal for myself, and it has nothing to do with anybody. I just don't want to end up with these prescriptions my whole life and taking them my whole life because I know the damage that it's going to do to my body, and I am aware of this. I don't need you to underestimate me. I don't need you to gaslight me. I don't need you to underestimate how I'm living my life. I don't need you to underestimate how I'm choosing to live my life and the lifestyle I want to motherfucking live. And I don't also want you to gaslight me thinking that I don't know anything about my identity and I don't know how to live my life. That's none of your business. Anyway, I digress. I always do this. But I'm going to choose to heal. And I'm not doing it for anybody. I'm doing it for me. And why is that? Let me tell you, I went into this healing journey thinking I just want to get rid of my depression. That's all. I just want to know what it's like to actually be happy and to feel happy and to know that I can be happy because I choose to be happy without anybody's permission. I just want to know. I just want to get into it. I just want to know what it looks like and feels like to be happy, because I used to be that person that will look at everybody and go, how does that person do that? I would literally look at a woman or a man who is like smiling so big, so effortlessly, just living motherfucking life, and I'm questioning to myself, how do they do that? How does that person look so damn happy without trying? I want to do that. So then I would question, right? And I would look at people and I would be like, I want to be like that. I want to be like that. So I went and chased after it. I told myself, okay, I'm going to do my research. I'm going to get to the bottom of my motherfucking problem. I'm going to ask myself why I'm so depressed. Where is it coming from? I'm going to ask myself so many motherfucking questions. I'm going to get to the root of my motherfucking problems. And we're going to fix this, and we don't need motherfucking prescriptions to do it. I went to it. I YouTubed meditation, how to start meditation, right? Granted, this had taken me quite some time because I had to get my mind right. I had to get right with my mind. 1313 when I said that, which is funny because my birthday is on September 13th. Thank you. That just literally took me back to something, but I'm going to go back to this because I don't want to. Anyway, where was I? Lord, take me back. Trace it back. Anyway, moving on. Choosing to leave the prescriptions behind. Thank you. And I'm going to do this the natural way. Learned meditation. That's where I was. Sorry. Learned meditation. Okay. Researched it. I YouTubed all kinds of videos about meditation. And then that's when actually it took me to tarot, which is funny. I'm going to get into that later. That's a whole different story. Took me, okay, into learning tarot. But first, let's back up. Learning meditation. How much it changed my mind. How overall had changed my whole life. I started off doing 5 minutes every day. I used to work at this pediatric office, and there were at least I think there were 22 rooms. And every day we had an hour break, an hour lunch, and every day I would take that hour and I would go into one of those rooms and I would meditate in front of this big ass open window, and I would just sit there for 5 minutes. Okay. And so I did that every day, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Let's try 10 minutes. So I did 10 minutes. Every day I would do 10 minutes on my lunch break. Invest in myself. Let's just see what 10 minutes will do to your brain, will do to your mind, Kim. Every day. Okay, let's take it up a notch. How about we do let's do 5 to 10 and then 10 to 15, or maybe even 30. It took me from 5 to 10 to 15, and then I would do 20. And I think I stayed at 20 for a while until I went up to 30. I think I had tried 30, but man, was it hard. I went back to 20. Let me tell you guys, I'm not overreacting here. In maybe 2 weeks, how much of a difference I had felt in my focus, my concentration. I used to administer vaccines to children, okay, when I worked at this pediatric office, and we would have to get the vaccines ready, right? So I would be in the lab and I would get the vaccines ready. And in doing this task, you have to be so focused, because not only are you handling vaccines, right? While you're doing this task, you have to be mindful, because you have to write down the lot number, you have to write down the expiration date, right? This task is very sensitive. Okay. It can cost you your life. All right. So for you to be doing that task, you have to be so mindful. Let me tell you, in 2 weeks, and doing the meditation, in 2 weeks, maybe like 3 weeks, I found myself in that moment doing that task, getting the vaccines ready, writing down the lot numbers, writing down the expiration date. Here's what I experienced. I was focused on the vaccine, every vaccine, right? Focusing in on writing down the lot numbers, writing down the expiration date. What I was experiencing from my point of view is that I was concentrating on one thing at a time. And what I felt was, as I focus in on this task, how everything else around me started to melt. I don't know if you guys experienced that when you're in meditation, but that was the difference that I had felt in meditation. And I wanted to tell you guys that, because that was a big step for me, right? And then when you go through something like that, when you have moments like that, when you're like, oh my God, I'm proud of myself for doing that, and then there's nobody around you that you can tell who's happy for you, it's like, I guess that was just for me to know. I don't know. But anyway, learned yoga, right? All of these things were a process, of course, obviously, right? Nothing actually improved right away. It took some time. These things take time at your own leisure. And also really depending on how bad you want to get better to heal yourself. And at this time when I was practicing meditation, I still had really, really bad anxiety. I had trouble speaking my mind. I had trouble with my hands. My hands were very shaky. I remember, like, I would be at work and I would just be doing my work, and then all of a sudden I would start to have thoughts, like racing thoughts, and then my heart would start to race, and then all of a sudden my hands would shake so bad. And I do believe that in these moments when I was having this experience, it had taken me back to a time in my childhood. You know, it's just what healing does to your body. Everything becomes raw and feels so raw, and you just never know. when you're going to cry, when you're going to have a flashback, you know. So I'll be at work and I'll go back to a time. It's like your body's like a fucking time machine. Like you'll go back to a time in your childhood where you felt that pain. And I would be at work and I would have those flashbacks, and I would go back to a time when I felt the pain and I felt the trauma, and then I would feel it in my hands when it would shake, and then my mind would start to race. How much meditation creates an even bigger space in your mind? Okay, imagine this. When you're meditating, you are really to just sit there simply. That's it. Meditation is not really asking you to do too much or making you do too much, or, you know, it is just simply letting you relax and coming back to relaxing your body fully and complete, not asking anything of you. And if you are having thoughts and if you are having emotions, let it be. Don't label it as anything. Just let it go. Have these thoughts and then observe these thoughts. Know them for yourself, but don't label it as anything, because these thoughts and your emotions that you're having, it isn't it to define who you are. For instance, if you're feeling depressed, it only means you are experiencing depression. It doesn't mean that you are a depressed person. Does that make sense? It is not to make you define who you are. Okay? But I digress. Again, coming back to what I was saying, yoga, meditation has helped me tremendously in this journey of healing. It's so funny. I'm literally just expressing this. All of this just came to mind, and then it took me to this that I had written years ago, where when all of my healing actually started, but how funny that I am expressing this. It is to be shared, I think. I think that we learn so much of each other when we allow ourselves to express ourselves from our truest state. You know what I mean? It is so important also for the rest of us to hear it. I think it does a lot for our collective, and it raises our frequency. You ever notice that when somebody expresses themselves from their truest state, how much of a difference you feel inside? When you speak from your truest state, there's no lies. You are not being dishonest with yourself. You are saying it the way you know you should be saying it, because that's how it needs to be expressed. How much lighter and brighter you feel inside. Perhaps for some of us, we weren't allowed to speak this way in our family, in our circle, or whatever it is, whomever it is you hang out with, whomever it is you surround yourself with, family members, siblings, friends, whoever the fuck. Perhaps you weren't allowed to speak as such because you know you're going to be judged. And you know everyone's going to look at you crazy and start labeling you as crazy, you're too much, you're crazy, you're out of your mind, you're weird, yada 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 yada, all kinds of names labeling you, right? Perhaps we weren't allowed to speak this way, and that we were silenced as a child for a reason, just like me. Perhaps you were that child who spoke the truth, but you had a parent who would silence you every time you spoke the truth. And then that just keeps repeating and repeating and building up in you until you become an adult and you don't know how to speak your mind. You don't know how to speak from your heart, because this place wants us to be in fear. And when you are in fear, you are not speaking from the heart. Y'all, my phone is about to die. You are not allowed to speak from your heart. Coming back to what I was saying about this world corrupts our mind, y'all. Not only does it fill our mind with unnecessary things and evil things, but it also influences our heart and where our heart is and has always been. Before I go, I want to say that while I have expressed this and didn't actually expect all of this to come out the way it did, but perhaps it was supposed to in the most natural way. But while it did, I hope that this has helped somebody. And I don't speak of this much to anybody, and it's kind of funny that I had shared the time when I was in the psych ward, because that is something that I don't speak about very often, but perhaps maybe I was supposed to at this hour, and you are a witness. But before I go, I want to say, before my phone dies, I want to say that if you are one going through this manic phase, depression, anxiety, separate yourself from it. Does that make sense? Like, know that you are having those feelings and know that you are feeling it, but you are not it. You are, remember this, in fact, greater than it. So if you're finding yourself in pain body, you are not your pain body. You still have a chance. If you so choose to heal, and please choose healing, thank you. If you are having feelings of anxiety, know that the anxiety is there for a reason. It is telling you something. But you got to be greater than the pain. You got to be greater than the anxiety. You got to be greater than the depression. Let me tell you what's on the other side of that.